let's talk about your life a little bit here.
My life.
You know, yeah, I did meet your mom at the restaurant. She really got me wondering, what was it like in your upbringing? You know, with the kind of parents that you have. You think that they were very traditional Taiwanese parents, but they're not. Not to me. You want to say, what was it like bringing up you and your younger brother?
Yeah, my family is actually quite unique in a way that my parents are actually very traditional.
Yeah?
My father coming from Yunlin, Taiwan, and my grandfather coming from Fujian. And we're all very close to them, so that's the Chinese upbringing is, the teaching is always there. But what separates them is that they keep that tradition very, very clear. My brother and I, obviously from younger days, and we know who we are, where we're from. But I think they're more open-minded in the sense that they listen a lot more than they tell, are more acceptable to changes than as opposed to just do this and that. Okay, I mean obviously they had their expectations growing up. You got to finish school, don't do drugs, don't drink too much, and so on and so forth. There are certain rules that they abide to, but when it comes to the things we really want to do achieve, they're very open-minded about it. You can see my younger brother, who's very much not the norm, right?
Right.
And to me, being the traditional firstborn, kind of destined to be a doctor, but didn't become one.
Right.
So these are the things that I think that separates them. Is that when you say they're traditional, I think they're very traditional in the sense where who we are as Taiwanese-born Chinese, right? The set of tradition that we have. But when it comes to our career and way of life, I think they've been very supportive.
I think that's very important, that your parents are willing to listen. They're not so adamant about, wanting you guys to turn out the way they want you to be. That's what I've noticed the time when I met your mom. And I think that's very unusual because traditional Taiwanese families are not like that. But your parents are very open-minded. And
I am more of a traditional firstborn. I don't have a special talent like my brother, so I kind of just, and my mother raised me just like by the book, right? Then how the first one by the book, the second one like a pig, right? So that's a traditional Taiwanese saying. It was very much like my family. I was brought up by the book, and even though I don't have many special talents, but I was not bad at school, and just like typical boys, I enjoy sports and have many friends. So I was doing what I was supposed to do. But my younger brother is very different. Obviously, he was the creative one, the troublemakers. He was, schoolwork was secondary to him, but art in particular, he really excelled. But back in the days, we were born in 1980 and 1982. Respectively. At that time, I think the schooling and teaching is still very traditional. I think grades matters, and I think art was not as celebrated. So my parents had to make a decision to continue, or do we find a better place for us? But it's really not for me. It's really for my younger brother. So growing up, obviously, you feel like, why am I making the change for the family? I was fine being in Taiwan. Why do I have to learn English and all that? Or to travel abroad, living by myself? But it was really, the initial reason was really because of my younger brother, to give him a better opportunity as opposed to being buried here in Taiwan.
How did you feel about that? That your mom, your parents kind of made you do things that you didn't really want to do, but it was all for the sake of your younger brother?
To be honest, it was difficult, right? I mean, why do you have to make the changes? So at that time, like you said, do I feel that unfairness? So why is the attention always on the younger brother? Sure, I had it. I cannot lie about it. I mean, I did feel somewhat unfair at times. But my parents did sit down with me and analyze it for me at that time. And he sent me to summer school to the States several times during the summer period, along with my younger brother. Really opened up my perspective on what I can gain if I get the opportunity to travel and if I had a chance to study abroad. So it wasn't a forced you kind of thing, even though I didn't really have much choice if they had to make it, but I think they tried their hardest to let me understand why. So it was they say, okay, yes, it's true, for a certain perspective, yes, more for my younger brother, but it's also beneficial for me, that where I can open my mind and open my eyes to different culture and really learn another language. And so I think I bought into that. So in the beginning, sure, I was feeling a little bit angry at times. But once we decided to do it, and through the experience that I had, I welcomed it. Yeah. But then I had to go through that period.
Right.
Yeah.
I believe that your mom took you and your younger brother to Canada and spent some time there. How old were you then?
I was just finished on my 7th grade.
Oh, okay.
So 13-ish.
Uh-huh.
My brother was 3rd grade.
Right.
4th.
And then you guys were in Canada for how long?
We were there actually 2.5 to 3 years. And then due to my father's work, very much based in Taiwan, and then he just started his own company then, so it was very difficult for him to travel.
Right.
So my mother being separated, having to take care of us, it was difficult for my father traveling and her going back. At that time, obviously, again, my brother and I was just kids, right? We didn't know better. We looked at my dad like a Santa Claus coming here and bringing gifts all the time. But we were just in our little world, right?
Yeah.
But then looking back and through conversation at a later, older age, now that I'm a parent too, goodness, it was so tough for my parents. So my mom asked us if it was okay for her to go back and take care of my dad.
Yeah.
And then us being independent, going to school, living boarding school, live by ourselves. My brother and I decided that was the right thing to do. So we moved to the States, to boarding schools in the northeast region.
Without your mom this time?
Without my mother this time. So we actually were there for a short period of time for the middle school purpose. And then in high school, we decided to go to the States. Then my mom moved back to Taiwan.
Okay.
That was ultimately the reason why. And then the schooling at that time, I mean, more options were offered in the States than in Canada.
Oh, okay.
So we decided to go there.
You studied at Johns Hopkins with the Economics and International Relations double major.
That's what I graduated.
Right.
Yeah.
What did you have in mind about what you were going to do in the future with that double major?
Oh no, actually, before that, to answer that question, I have to explain another. That's not what I began as.
Okay.
I went to Hopkins, early decision, very lucky.
Medicine?
It was for biology.
Oh, okay.
Biology going to medicine.
Yeah.
But the med school in the States obviously is post undergrad. So for lack of a better love, I guess, my love has always been in biology related. Science-based, but more biology. Not chemistry, not physics. I was very good at biology, and I really enjoyed it. And I don't really have a clear mind or idea on what I want to do in the future. So everybody say, hey, biology, doctor is kind of a natural path.
Right.
So Hopkins still is very strong in medicine, and their biology program is one of the best in the country at that time, which I think there still is. And then I realized the passion is not really there. To being a doctor, that is. Was there a particular something that made you realize that the passion was really medicine? Well, first, so I always tell people, not knowing what you want to do is very difficult, but at the same time, knowing what you don't want to do is just as critical. So I think at that time, I didn't know what I want to do, but I know what I don't want to do is lab-based work, and at the same time, being a doctor is not really about the studying or the knowledge. It's about facing patients. Yeah. That is the part that really scared me. And because it's a really grim place, if you ask me, hospital. And people come to you because they really need your professional advice. But once they're cured, obviously you're gone, right? All the situation that you face on a daily basis, not only you have to really enjoy it and solving these issues, and you're talking about life and death, depending on what you do, on the severity of it. I don't think I was ready for that. Okay. I don't think I was ready for that. Right. I was very scared talking to my parents for that first year. Because throughout the study phase of my life, I was the one that's doing better than my younger brother. Right. My younger brother has always been the one that's break the rules all the time, right? But I just kind of followed through and not, trying to make my parents proud at the same time, not let anybody down. But that first year in college, not only I was being educationally challenged, I was being mentally challenged. And you were not happy? I was not happy. But it was very hard for me to open that first conversation with my parents because I didn't want to let them down. It's until one day I decided that it has to stop. We have to find a way to deal with this. So I spoke to my dad. My mom honestly was very shocked at first, but I decided to speak to my dad first. My dad was like, okay, sure, why not? Just change. I was like, what? That's it? That's it? You don't have anything more to say? He's like, you don't like it, right? I'm not sure if I like it or not. He's like, then what? Then why don't you do something else? So all that pent up negative energy that I had, my dad kind of was just like, okay, so what? My mom had a bigger reaction. Oh, I'm sure.
Was it because your dad had in mind that he wanted you to take over his business?
That is very funny, actually. No, he did not.
Oh.
Because he insists he did not. Which I think at that moment in time, he really didn't.
So what was after Johns Hopkins? You went to Japan? Waseda University?
Yeah, for MBA.
Yeah. Oh, why Japan?
So that's when we began to have a conversation on what I want to do down the road. So you don't want to be a doctor. What do you want to do? So that's when my father kind of chimed in and said, you know what? You like biology, right? You know, what I do is something related to biology, except we work with animals, commercial animals, pigs, chicken, fish. Why don't you come with me? And then during the summer times, and then just check out what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll be interested. So I'm not sure if it was planned or not planned, but it kind of happened.
Okay.
So I started traveling with him. I started as a translator, follow my dad around, understand his business, and at the same time, work as a part-time translator, right?
Oh,
so I began to understand what he does.
Translating for some.
Oh, because our product comes from abroad, from Europe and from the U.S. Vitamins, minerals, enzymes. All these animal use feed additives that we distribute and use come from Europe and America, and some from Japan.
Got it.
So I began traveling with him to visit the suppliers and to learn best practice and bring to Taiwan from the farming sector. That's where I began to understand what he was doing.
I see.
And then we decided that after graduation, he said, okay, I run a small SME, very typical in Taiwan, self-founded, 白手起家. And if I'm interested, and now that you don't object to it, why don't you come to the business?
Okay.
But before you join, I think you should learn a little bit more on business management, because you coming in, obviously down the road, you have a chance of being a manager or successor. Right. So it's important for you to have that. And English, obviously, you have kind of got a hang of. I don't need to stay in the States a little bit any longer. Japan is another place where language, I can learn a new language. And a lot of the management style in Taiwan is patterned from Japanese companies. So now that I've been in the States for over 10 years in the Western world, I think it's time to come back and understand the Asia world. And Japan was a choice. So that's why I went to Japan and Waseda, I get MBA and then come back. And during the MBA, I used my company, SME, Small Medium Enterprise, used my company as a case study. Okay. To further prove or disapprove my decision going back is right or not. Because being second generation, going back to the family company, it's a lot of times on the outside it looks easy, but it's really not that easy because the expectation is high. And for those of us who really want to make a difference, it makes even that much tougher. So my father and I had this agreement is that before I turned 30, I came back to Taiwan on 27 and a half or 28. Before I turned 30, 2 years, if we work well together, we can continue. If you don't, change your job. Because he said he's not going to change his job. So you want to change your job, better do it before 30. So I say, okay, that's tough. But shoot, if that's what it is, you're the boss, That's what it's supposed to be. So I use my company as a case study, really thoroughly understand the strong suit and the weak point of my company. And then we joined.
I think your parents have a lot of wisdom when it comes to communicating with their children. I don't feel your dad putting a lot of pressure on you and having very high expectations of you. Of course, he'll be very happy if you were to take over his business, but if you don't, he wouldn't get upset. He keeps a very open mind about it.
I keep on thinking that I think everything's planned. I think he planned everything. He just planned it in a way that it doesn't feel weird. Yeah, but obviously my younger brother, you cannot plan him. So my younger brother kind of planned for everyone else. Okay. So we kind of fit him, right? Yeah. And he became the person he is today.
I think that's one thing I admire about parents, yes, is that they don't get too upset because they're willing to take a change or, make a turn in the road if their children is not turning out the way they expected and they keep an open mind about it. Your mom was saying that, maybe she was talking about your younger brother, if the best thing you could do was getting 80% on his exams, why should I expect him to get 100?
Yeah, because there'll be false expectation. Yeah. And it's tough for everyone.
I guess we should talk about this farm to table concept that you have for this park that you have in Yunlin, which is central Taiwan, and it's more like I've not visited, and I plan to visit there and do a show over there.
I would love to have you guys.
Yeah, that would be great. But it's more like a museum slash slaughterhouse slash factory slash restaurant.
Yes.
So talk about this idea.
It's a slash of everything.
Yeah.
First of all, I want to say thank you, Shirley, for giving us this opportunity. I think sometimes you're so entrenched in your life, you don't sit down and kind of reflect. So through this conversation, obviously, I can get to think and reflect a little. I think it's great. But coming back to the work that I do, it still comes from my dad. Why? Because obviously he's the founder of the company. Myself is an extension of that. So I always see myself not being the successor or like continue his job. I want to make it better. I think my job is to extend it and then put more meaning to it. So I'm not trying to change. I'm not trying to take over. I want to build upon it.
Okay.
So the natural progression with my company and the work we do is really from upstream to downstream. Upstream being the feed side and animal. Downstream is the food, because clearly we work with commercial animals, and that means the food, that animal that would turn into food products. So a lot of people say, oh, animal nutrition, are you talking about pets? Sure, we do pets related stuff, but majority of our work is for what we call the commercial animals. So coming back to that, all that internship, the things that I've done with my dad before school, or even doing case study in my own company, it was to ensure that I have a smooth stay and decision made by me as opposed to forced. That was just to get me comfortable.
Yeah.
Because if you're not comfortable, that's where things go wrong. Yeah. I decided that I want to take up this challenge. So if I fail, it's cool, it's mutual. That was the beginning of it. But obviously, my dad gave me 2 years, right? We gave each other 2 years.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, I was before 30, so 28 I joined, and before 30, 2 years. That's where the trial period is. Do I like him? Does he like me? I mean, living on the same roof. We haven't lived with each other for so long. And I go home at 27, living alone for such a long time, and he treated me like 2.5 or 2.7, whatever. And combine that and with working together, we basically see each other 24 hours.
Yeah.
That is tough.
I know.
That is tough. Living with your boss and he's your dad, that's not easy. So that first 2 years was really that, trying out each other, feeling out each other, and trying and understanding where I stand in the company and how the other people view me as a person, as an employee, right? To fast track, I think now moving on to my 10th year. So obviously we way past that. Yeah. Not saying it was easy, but I think we way past that now. It was until the 3rd and 4th year that we decided that together, I think we can do more. My father wanted to find a way to sustain his business. So we decided to integrate downstream to food and really make a difference. And by doing this integration, highlight the Taiwanese local producers for people to like it, for the locals, for the foreigner to enjoy it, and then bring that value back to the farming so you can continue to sustain that. Because if you don't appreciate or use local producers, there's no farming, no agriculture, then there's no need for us. So to solve this issue, we have to highlight and differentiate our product from the abroad, from the imports, offering something that's authentic. So for the locals, having safe eating. For the foreigners, something original. Why would you want to come all the way from Europe and eat something that comes from Europe? Obviously, you go to places to enjoy, you want to eat the local producers. But then they will ask you, what do you want to eat and why is it better? That's our job to do that. That's where it leads to us today, sitting here. It was my dad's passion for his industry. I would say my responsibility and also now my passion as well to help him accomplish that.